Hey guys, Alessio, hope you're well. In this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, especially after the drop we've seen this month and also the drop that occurred under the 80K level, as we can see there. So what is the chart of Bitcoin now telling us about what could happen potentially in the next several weeks? And what are the key levels on the chart of Bitcoin? And how can they be important to us for the rest of 2025? All right, guys, should be quite interesting. Join me. All right, guys, welcome back. So before we talk about Bitcoin, let me just briefly explain where I am. As you can probably guess, I'm not in the UK, I'm not in London, but I am actually in Tehran in Iran. I came here just recently, flew to Tehran, and I met my friends Human and Sarah. As you can see there, we just went recently to Iran Mall, had a fantastic time. By the way, if you do come to Tehran, check out the largest mall in the world by area, that is Iran Mall. By the way, I have a special guest here with me today, and that is, yes, I'm sure you recognize his face.
Hello everyone. I'm glad to see you here, Alessio.
Thanks, Human. By the way, if you recall, some years ago, Human has a special interest in crypto himself. Human, are you looking at anything interesting right now in the crypto world? What's been happening?
Yes, I love XRP.
XRP?
Yes.
What have you been doing with XRP recently?
Yeah, I buy it.
You're buying it?
Yes.
All right, guys, let's talk about Bitcoin. So as I'm sure you know, back some weeks ago, when I was doing a video with Charlie Burton, Charlie and I actually agreed that we could see a drop in Bitcoin to much lower levels, in fact, to the low 80K level. In fact, we forecasted this, we predicted this would happen before the drop even occurred. Here's a clip.
So yeah, funny enough, I'm looking at the low 80,000s myself.
Oh, really?
If it can pull back down to there, I think that's some good levels down there. For different reasons, I've got some trend lines and stuff down in the low 80s based on the weekly timeframes.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned the low 80s because that's not far away from the daily 200. That's the green line there on my chart, which is slowly catching up with the 82K support there. So yeah, you could be absolutely right. It could go into the low 80s. Okay, so now that we've seen this nice drop down to the 78K and just under 78K level there, as you can see on the chart, the question I'm sure some of you are wondering is, okay, has Bitcoin bottomed or could we potentially see more risk, more downside? Well, for me, what's really important, first of all, as I'm sure you know from previous videos, is this weekly chart of Bitcoin. Now, what you see here, that blue line, by the way, some of you probably know what that blue line is. Do you know what this blue line on my chart is?
Moving average.
Moving average, very good. Do you know which particular moving average?
Yes, 21.
21, absolutely. Yes. Of course, 21 is it's a Fibonacci number. Human, can you do your best Italian accent? Fibonacci.
Fibonacci.
Margarete.
So guys, the 21 weekly moving average is a very important level. Why? Because it's a dividing line. It's often a dividing line between bull and bear markets. Right now, Bitcoin is below this important level, the 21 weekly moving average, as Human said. But the question we're wondering is it going to remain below the 21 weekly average, and for how long? As you saw in a previous video, I mentioned that in a bull market, typically price, especially in Bitcoin, drops to the 21 weekly and sometimes at 34 and then bounces. And when Bitcoin holds these levels, the 21 to 34 weekly moving averages, and bounces off, this is a sign that the bull market wants to continue. The trend wants to continue to the upside. Because again, these important averages can help us as to whether we're in a trend, an uptrend, or are we reversing trend. By the way, guys, come with me as I'm going to take you around this part of Tehran. Let me just show you, by the way, this is some nice shops. Now, the key question for me, Human and everyone, is how long is Bitcoin going to stay under this important level, again, the weekly 21 moving average? Because history shows that when price on Bitcoin stays below the 21 weekly moving average for too long, that's a strong indication that price could be reversing trend and perhaps falling into a bear market. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen right now, okay, guys? So all I'm saying is that is a risk and a probability or a possibility I'm considering if price does not recover and bounce back and go above the 21 weekly moving average. Hopefully, guys, I'm hoping that price will do that. I'm hoping that soon, in the next several days and weeks, Bitcoin is going to be able to push back above the 21 weekly moving average. Now, currently, as I'm making this video, the weekly 21 moving average, again, what level is it at?
88 or 89K.
Well done, thanks, man. Yeah. So if Bitcoin can recover and get above that 21 weekly moving average quickly, and it has to happen very quickly, all right, guys? Now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it happens in the next couple of weeks, for example, or at least the next few weeks, then that's a good sign, if it can recover and bounce back above it. By the way, Bitcoin could perhaps stretch down a bit lower, maybe potentially make a lower low to beneath the lows we made in March, potentially, it's possible, before we bounce back. But the point is, time now is of the essence. Because if Bitcoin can recover quickly, as I said, above the 21 weekly moving average, as Human said, above the 88 or 89K level, and then go above the next resistance as well, if it can follow through higher, break the next resistance on Bitcoin, which is at what level?
95K.
Good, 95K, thanks Human, absolutely. If we can break 95K on Bitcoin as well, that becomes a strong indication that likely Bitcoin has bottomed. By the way, guys, as we're walking here, we just noticed some food, some nice, interesting pizzas here, which we might potentially have. What do you think, Human? You feeling a bit hungry?
Yes.
You could eat. By the way, I have to be honest here. Iranian food is fantastic. I love Iranian food, but pizza in Iran, not so great. If you want pizza, you got to go to, where do you have to go? Italia,
Yeah.
Milano, Venezia. Yes, okay. Now, as I mentioned in the video with trader and my friend Manuel Bly, he said that there's a risk that Bitcoin could potentially drop to 65K. My own personal important levels are about 70K or 74K. If it were to drop down to those levels, like 70K or 65K, it needs to then protect those levels and bounce back and recover very quickly back above the important levels of resistance. As I mentioned, the 21 weekly, near 88K or 89K. If it cannot do that, if it fails in the next rally to get above those key levels, then guys, brace for impact. That means Bitcoin could be in a lot of trouble. But I'll be honest with you, I'm still a half glass full person. In other words, I'm still optimistic. As long as Bitcoin can stay above this trend line support that you see here on this chart, and as long as it stays above 65K, approximately 70 or 65K, I still think there's a probability, a higher probability for Bitcoin to rally to new highs, as long as it can recover and bounce above the key levels I mentioned, the 21 weekly and the 95K level, which I'm sure you're tired of me mentioning by now. By the way, I know some of you probably going to say in the comments, Alessio, you keep repeating yourself, you keep repeating the same points. It's true, because honestly, when the video is not scripted and when you're walking around with a whole bunch of things happening, sometimes you do get to repeat yourself. So I do apologize if I repeated a few points. Again, as I mentioned in this video, I'm still going to remain optimistic and cautiously bullish for the next several months, going to the summer, maybe to the end of this year for Bitcoin. I still think as long as Bitcoin can stay above the key support levels I just mentioned in this video, despite any further drops on Bitcoin, that it could potentially rally to new highs. Of course, that's as long as Bitcoin stays above the support levels, like 65K, for example. But of course, if Bitcoin were to drop below that, then it becomes less likely, much less likely for Bitcoin to move to new highs. But again, for now, as long as those support levels are protected and we stay above it, I still think the higher probability is that this drop we're seeing here so far in the last several weeks and months is a likely correction, temporary correction, before we go to new highs, perhaps by the summer or after the summer of this year. But guys, that means this as well. If Bitcoin fails to get above the key levels of resistance, the 21 weekly moving average and 95K on the next rally, so the next rally will be very important. If Bitcoin fails to get above those levels and instead rolls over below, for example, 74K and 70K, yeah, that's going to be problematic. That could potentially signify significant risks and potentially even a reversal in trend. Again, that's if that happens. I'm hoping it won't happen. But Human and I, actually, we're not going to be worried too much about Bitcoin, because we're going to go to somewhere nice and maybe have some Persian food. What do you think?
Yes.
Human hasn't had anything today. He's been dieting. And so where do you think we should go eat? What do you fancy?
In the afternoon, I think I go to Bal Coffee.
Bal Coffee. You want coffee at this time of day? All right, guys, and I want to wish you guys a phenomenal Persian New Year. Persian New Year is coming up very soon. See you guys in the next video update.
Bye-bye, guys.